Okay, well, obviously, there's no point in belaboring the point. Obviously, you caught on pretty quickly to the point we were trying to make. Um, did any of you were any of you surprised, perhaps, or did you notice that some of you who were in the same regions had different amounts of money bags? And did you find this disturbing? Or yes, why? Why? I mean, why?
We're in the same region, why do we have like the same amount?
All right, if we're in the same region,
So
yeah. The question being, if we're in the same region, why wouldn't we have the same amount? And I suppose the question becomes: these are all real world figures, actually. What you just did were figures from Oxfam, International Hunger Relief Agency, and they put together some guidelines for what you just participated in, which is called a hunger banquet. It's not the entire program, but it's something that we do with World Games sometimes. And when you look at who's eating what, it's not regional. It's income levels, and those change from region to region. Some are more equal than others. But even in a country like the United States, obviously, richest country on earth in many ways, you have disparity in what food resources people have access to, and that was the reason why you were stratified within your regions for this simulation, not just something that happened interregionally. So what we are going to do is come back to the game by starting another game round, and I would say that perhaps you'd maybe want to keep in mind again the urgency of your food needs, maybe bringing up to speed those of you who are within your same region who perhaps are just getting the small spoonful of rice. Second round's going to begin, and this is not the last round, but it is another one, and you can resume whatever activities you were engaged in when we cut you off the first time. Thanks.
It's like 12:45.
We want to.
What are y'all working on?
Well, don't tell anyone. But what we decide, we want to conquer some country, so we can get all their money because we need it. So we're trying to find a country that has less military, the less percentage of the world's military spending than us, and then we're gonna attack them to get all their money.
I think they're forgetting the cost of war. They're forgetting the cost of war. I think that's why we have to apply to the UN. Like in the real world, you don't have to apply anywhere, but I'm sure you have to apply to the UN here so that they make sure that real costs are accounted for rather than just like, oh, we can attack them and take their money. Because war costs money. And many other things.
Because we have so many people, what we're going to do is we're going to send people out unarmed, just like at Pork Chop Hill, and there's going to be like a wave of people, like when the first round of people die, then some of the next round of people. See? Just kidding, don't record this.
Sounds real to me.
what did y'all say I wanted to do again?
Let's go to war with unarmed.
Okay, for real, hey.
Yeah, but
Maybe-
what if we lose too much
What if we lose
population?
too many people?
Yeah, they're not gonna let us go
How
to
can we lose too many people?
No, let's
Do you know how many people we have?
People like you say,
Wait, you mean they have to?
they have to control their
Why are you
problems.
talking about this in front of Japan? We're not trying to conquer Japan.
That'll ruin our reputation.
Yeah, but if we go to war with
shouldn't conquer Japan because
Whose
they
idea was this again?
We're not going to become the villains of
Well,
the
you know,
game, 'cause, I mean, 'cause other
on
countries
TV.
start messing with it, It's just not good for the image.
Yo,
Did
yo,
you learn anything from watching television? Image is
makes
nothing.
right.
Drink Sprite.
We're doing okay economically. Up and we're gonna get a surplus so we can start trading.
But if we go to war with no weapons, then what if a lot of our population
they'll
gets
like team up
killed?
against us
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
True that, true that.
because they don't want to like shift the balance of power.
So why don't we just work on expanding our natural resources?
Yeah, all right.
Wah, wah, wah.
So, hey,
Oh, go talk to Susunu.
all right,
Talk to
Alright,
Middle East.
Have you talked to your man?
All right, we need energy.
We need energy fools. Look us up.
Well, we're going at 5 billion. We're going for 5 billion.
Each?
Yeah.
No, that's too
Who's
expensive.
paying you $5 billion?
Japan
They
and
need it more. Y'all gotta come down with that. That's too much.
You know what they're gonna do, right? You know how powerful they are? They're gonna come and slap you in the face with it.
what are you talking about? We're trading with them. They like us.
What are they giving you?
Okay, well, what do y'all
Yeah,
need? Maybe
money.
we have something that y'all need.
We're doing fine. We're doing fine right now, but
What do you mean
We just
need?
wanna buy.
No, y'all don't.
Everything we need. Yes.
How much do y'all need?
Y'all,
we need an energy bar, but yeah.
Hey, I got our balloons.
Balloons for what?
Be humane.
For war.
Like, be
y'all
humane.
need to diversify y'all's economies. All y'all have is oil. Y'all are oil
Think about
dependent.
all the people in China that need things. Like Japan, they're a small country, they can fend for themselves. But like people in China, they're like starving. Like
China needs to deal with its population problem.
we are dealing with it.
How much do you want me to pay?
Not 5 billion.
Well, then how much? Because that's how much we're getting. How much do you want to pay?
Country too. So then,
Our
Okay, if we
resources for free.
do transportation.
2 billion. 2 billion.
Ramsey.
Man, 2 billion in energy. That's friend price right there. That's like
See, look at that right there.
two for 5 billion. 10 billion for 2.
How many do we have extra?
I know,
excess?
that's what I'm looking
Wait, hold on. We're not. Give them the money first.
hey,
We need 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 3 left.
We got 4 left. I don't know. We might need it for later on and like increase the price later on.
Is this an international conference?
We're
Can
kinda
we be a
going-
part of this? Can we hear this?
so what's the deal? How much y'all gonna sell for?
Why are you selling us out? We're having a talk and then Japan just intervenes. What is this? This is very uncourteous.
Okay, what happened was we got another citation from the United Nations. They're taking 2 energy away from us because they feel that we're mass producing with nuclear weapons, which is a little crap. But I mean, I really don't know. We have to give it to them. We have to give them 2 energy points.
Voted about our energy. Well, if we only have what we need, we don't have to trade with nobody else, so the problem's over, right?
No, it's not over because they feel that we're using it for mass production. So we have to give them 2 energy. Okay, we'll solve that problem. So now we
So
only
then
have
now we can't get rid of any.
we have 3 left.
We have 2 left, and he wants 6. We need
How much
6.
do we have total?
We're not selling past 6. I want to buy. He wants to buy our last 2. We can't do that.
How about we sell them 1? How about we sell them 1 for 5?
No, for 10 billion.
For 10 billion. 10 billion.
Hold on, 10 billion. 10 billion.
But you say 5 at first.
I know, but
Things are getting hectic.
Yeah.
He's right. Another one. Oh.
What is this?
These problems. Okay.
What'd you get?
We got problems in the peace, which is basically the main problem is probably between the Israelis and the PLO. We have to work into this. I think what we need to do is we need to perhaps form some meetings. You know, we need to get people together, the group leaders. And I think that in order to resolve this problem, we just need to get the leaders together. And we haven't.
What's that yellow card?
The yellow card is from the United Nations, who are trying to keep the peace. And we have a lot of military and peace problems, so that's what we need to get rid of.
You don't understand.
So we have 4 citations all of a sudden.
Okay, let's
I
get to
thought we were
work.
doing so well.
Okay.
All right,
Okay, we need to give them 2. We need to give them 2. We have $70 billion. We have $70 billion in military. They proposed that to get rid of one of our citations, which is the militarism.
We have given you ample time to respond to our demands. We are now going to issue an amnesty.
We were talking to him. I swear we were talking to him. We were talking
$1 billion.
to the cameraman. We were talking to the cameraman. We were about
$5
to
billion.
We were about to give it to you. No. No, you don't understand. People have been talking to us. We haven't had time to come and give it to you.
Well, what's your priority? That's not my concern, sir. That is not my concern. I'll take these.
And
$5 billion. And 1 more of these. Now, you mean energy.
we only have 1 more energy.
Okay, now, The people of the UN hereby present amnesty to the people of the Middle East for the following reasons: non-compliance to the demilitarization of your army.
You didn't take the paper?
I did. I talked to her about it.
Okay. What's going on here?
So now,
We
if
haven't been
have
given
to come
ample
back,
time.
we're going to be on the verge of war.
With the UN?
So what is your proposal? Well, how can we solve this problem? 55% cut, is that what you propose?
55% cut.
I thought we already agreed to do that.
We did, but I didn't come back to her because we've had y'all have been giving us all these citations at once. We haven't had enough time. We haven't had ample time to figure it out.
Somebody just dropped 3 at one time, it looked to me. That's not
Oh, you
right.
have three more citations?
I don't know.
I don't know. We have to count it
Citations
up.
do you have? You have 4?
At one time.
They gave us all of them at the same time. We couldn't.
Let me see. Let's resolve this one with the military. You're
So
going to cut
55% cut.
by military. 55% cut. You paid
Okay.
You paid a $5 billion fine and 3 energy. We took some of your energy. The reason we're taking your energy is not to make your people go cold in the winter, but it's to stop you, to help you cut that military. Now, y'all have a good day. Oh, let's see. You have
We have peace
citation.
problems. We have peace
Yeah.
problems. I propose that we solve these.
Okay, I have another meeting.
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Take our money and run like that, right?
Right now, the United Nations is really ragging on us, and we need to
Not good.
do something to get them off our backs. So that's all we have to say right now.
No.
So, what are you guys gonna do?
What are we gonna do?
Y'all were talking about war.
Right now we're trying to see what we can sell to see if we can get enough power to go to war, because we don't know if we have enough weapons or not. And we're trying to get more weapons because we don't have enough. We only have 6 weapons, so we can't sell none. And we just don't have enough to sell right now.
So you want to go to war? It's just you don't think you can afford it?
Yeah, because we think that war would be better to get our population to go down, but we don't have enough resources or nothing to go to war.
Of course, some of us are worried about that prospect because war has a rather bad political impact on our image, and really,
Where's our?
many of us don't want to be the first ones to push the button in this game. So we're kind of divided along those lines, aren't we?
I guess. I don't know.
I need $1 billion.
I guess half of us are hoping for a peaceful solution to all this. So I mean, it's in here.
How are we gonna go ask for a loan? We don't need a loan. We got enough money as it is. But they can give us money.
Yeah. A lot of money.
That's true though. But still, we need to sell our own stuff so we can get our own money instead of trying to go for the
Yeah,
bank,
but we don't
get
have
the money.
enough. We don't have enough resources to sell it.
So we do need a loan.
Well, I know, but
But see, if we get a loan, we're gonna have to start paying them people off, and then that's gonna lose our money.
we don't have enough money to do. We're gonna have to sell more things.
That's what I'm talking about.
But I think we can sell. I think we can afford to sell some more food because we could always grow easier because we have the soil.
Thank you.
And we have
Sell
good
food.
soil. That's
Sell
what I'm saying.
food.
We can sell more food because we can always grow
That's all we
more.
gotta do. Sell food.
Not so too much, because then we'd be starving.
Well, like sell stuff.
That's common sense.
Sell stuff that we can grow, not stuff that we have to
Like sell like frosted flakes and stuff.
and
Because we
milk
can
and
we got
corn, rice.
rice and all
yeah,
that wheat.
because that we can easily grow. But don't sell stuff that we can't grow easily. That we have to beg for them to get.
Okay, let's go sell some food.
You got the basket, yo.
Hey,
Hey, where's the basket of food?
we came up with an idea that we can sell food, but food that we can grow.
Like rice,
Yeah.
wheat, because that, our country easily produces it, so like if we sell it, then we won't have no problem reproducing it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
But
we
we
can
don't want to sell stuff that we have to like beg to get back. Just stuff that we can easily.
Plus of food.
See, but the problem is you don't have a surplus of food. So when you sell this food, in the meantime, you're going to be starving. People are going to starve.
You can't sell food if you don't have enough food for your own people.
What's a surplus?
Surplus is extra food. After your country is satisfied, the extra you have, then we sell
We're
that.
still trying to satisfy all the
We
people
don't
we
even
have.
have
Yeah, like
enough food for ourselves. We can't give up food.
But then what else can we give up? Because people they don't want to give up.
need
They
your
don't
What
money.
did we just say we were going to do? You just said something. What is it?
why don't we try to
exploit the natural resources we have and develop our own energy,
Oh, that's right.
like coal and
We're gonna
whatever.
develop our own energy. So,
Like no one else has energy. And
No
the Middle
one has
East
energy.
has energy, but we can't get it.
We're the ones that have more energy.
Well, didn't some group already like come up with the hydro thing?
oh yeah, but how come it doesn't give us energy?
I don't know. Ask them, because they already did that. They did that to come up with more energy, and they got, I think, like two things of energy. That's about it. They didn't bring nothing else.
Really? Oh, it gave us energy. The hydroelectric thing we did. Yeah. Oh, that's good.
That's about it. But we still need money. That's the one thing we're left and we're in debt a lot.
And we were trying to sell our resources, but nobody wants to buy them because everybody has enough and they don't want to buy them.
Pay off more than our interest on the loan, because then we won't be chipping away at the actual debt. We'll just keep on paying the interest.
We don't have a loan. We just plan on don't have money between ourselves. You know, we haven't gone to get a loan or nothing. We're in debt. But to other countries,
get a loan.
Not to like a loan or anything.
We owe the bank money. We owe the
It says in the commercial card that we haven't got no loans and nothing. Like we haven't got no loans. On that little red card it says we haven't got no loans yet. You know the little, the commercial debt thing, it says we haven't got no loans.
Ramsey, go get that red card.
Hey, what's our problem?
Trying to find money, man.
The problem is we can't give up any of our food because we don't have a surplus. And not only that, we don't have enough food, and neither does any of the other countries. Which makes you wonder where all the food is, because North America has a big surplus, and yet they don't have food to sell. Oh, they are selling it, but they're selling it $10 billion one item. That's too much. We don't have that kind of money. Man,
Maybe the first thing is we need is food.
Maybe we media tell the media about their selfishness.
We are on the media.
Where's the media? Go to the media.
Where's the
right
lady?
there.
There she is.
Leslie.
WGNN.
Maybe it's right.
To make them lower their prices.
Yeah,
America got all the money. America got all the
we did some. We paid money and we
How much money did you pay?
5 billion.
For each?
No,
All of them?
yeah.
Oh, they're awesome.
Like if they will lower their prices.
We need one more food. What else do they need? Sell them some energy. Sell them some energy, and we can invest in our own food.
We don't have enough energy to.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
But at the end of the game, I think we have to have like.
Oh yeah, we need to expand energy. Then we'll get some more food.
How did that one guy get food? He got like another 1 or 3, like $1 billion or something.
Yeah. Who else got some more food in here?
All I know is
North America has all the food.
That's what I'm telling them,
They
but-
won't give it to anyone.
because they go too much moolah.
Selfish. We need one more. So go on the media and tell them how selfish we are.
How about we just? No, we can't do that. How much surplus does America have?
America has a big old surplus.
That's what I'm gonna go investigate.
Let's go to the media. Come on, let's go.
No, I'm gonna go investigate, see what they need, so we can sell that. Wait, hold on. Hey, get over, come
So why don't we ask them what they need, and then maybe we could do an even trade without having no money. Because if we ask them like what do they really need, and then if we have extra, then we could just trade evenly for their food, and then we'll give them whatever we need. You know understand what I'm saying? Like we'll just trade evenly with no money involved.
I don't know. Natural resources. Natural resources.
What are the
5-minute warning down to will be over in 5 minutes. Media team, you should begin preparing your report.
To North America about your inner city violence. This is becoming a problem. You already did it.
I already found it.
Sorry.
Dams the government does. Go away. So I guess change it to excuse me, that companies do not build dams that the government does. And you missed Johnny Liddy?
That's the only thing that y'all need.
They want weapons? 10 billion, the cost? 10 billion?
Can y'all lower y'all prices if we make a deal?
What do y'all want, food?
We need what? We need what? 7 billion. 7 billion?
7 billion for one food. Are they gonna do it?
Go down to 5 and that's it.
Are y'all gonna do 7?
Why aren't y'all wearing your hats? I'm just wondering. I'm not asking you to, but just why aren't you?
Oh, we just forgot. We just forgot to put them on.
Y'all just forgot?
Yeah. We took them off for lunch, and then we just didn't put them back on after lunch.
Who's in charge of your weapons? We're not sending weapons.
We're not sending weapons at this time.
Okay.
We just
Where are you from?
India.
Where's your hat?
It's over here. It fell off.
As long as you don't make war with us, you have to give us the mutual.
Yes, we will protect y'all.
All right, we'll give you 20.
20.
20.
40. 40 for all of them. 40.
40 for half of them. 20 for one.
20 for one. 20 for one.
No. Okay. 40 for one. No, not for one. Not for one. That's too much. Not 40 billion.
So we're gaining.
I know, but that's like being like
20.
22. I know. Oh yeah, they can wage war against us.
We're not gonna.
What are y'all selling?
They're gonna sign a treaty with us saying they're gonna become our allies. Okay. Right on here. Sign a treaty. Okay.
What are y'all selling?
Oh, weapons. Anybody got weapons?
Where are you from?
India.
And you're selling weapons to who?
Japan.
Now we need the food.
Okay, somebody go buy food. Okay, we're not one unit.
United States is going back on their little agreement. They're upping the prices here. Bad reputation.
They have made a bargain.
They originally said 3 for 12. He did. He's totally.
I made a deal with him.
Yeah, we made a deal, 3 for 12 or 5 for 1, and now they're changing. Okay, never mind. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Let me go turn this in and see.
So all these people are asking about, they want to buy stuff from you guys, and they say y'all aren't selling.
Because they're too cheap. They don't want to pay the money.
See, we have a big debt and we need money to pay our debt. That's the problem.
Over $4 billion in debt. Over $4 trillion, I mean. And we need the money to pay them off. We just paid off the interest and we still owe money to the bank. So that's why we're charging money and they don't want to give it up. Let me go take care of this. Where's the sweatshop one? I have nothing from the UN.
Are you worried?
Yes.
Maria, you got the sweatshop problems?
No, who has it? I think that other girl.
We don't have sweatshop problems.
Oh.
Because we looked in the book and there wasn't any sweatshop problems, so we don't know why they gave it to us.
So what happened? Did y'all sell food to China?
Yeah, we sold 3 food for 12 billion, which is less than we were really hoping for. But we had made the promise, so we went ahead and sold it to him.
Round 2 is now over. Can everyone please return to your regions and have a seat? Media team, are you ready to give your report?
To send y'all to give y'all a message, to send a message to the UN that they need to calm down. I mean,
Okay,
they need to give people ample time to make these decisions that they're giving us. Would that cost us anything?
Okay, I think you should talk with them personally about that.
Because I talked to him to the guy in charge, and he said that we could do it through y'all.
Starting off with the UN, in the Middle East, they have forced the Middle East to cut their military by 55%, and they've been giving 3 citations on the letter of amnesty, and they've also confiscated 3 energies to prevent them building any more nuclear weapons, but that they are currently at ease with the Middle East right now on that issue. And North America has solved their immigration problem. Congratulations. And In Latin America, they have announced that they have legalized drugs in an effort to help remove the violent drug dealers and to get the druggies to move to a more corporate legalized system to put them out of business. And in Europe is willing to pay a good sum of money for one more energy that they're in desperate need of. And that they have lots of food, money, technology, and military power, and they are willing to, trade Europe for one more energy. And they are not in any more negotiations to give energy away. And in China, they are selling their natural resources for energy or energy investments. And in Japan, they have abundant technology and natural resources, but they are lacking energy and food. And then, it's your turn.
Okay, first of all, Africa is in need of technology and also energy. So if you have some of that and they're willing to give away their natural resources and money. India has stopped deforestation. They've solved their soil and erosion problem through crop rotation. Also, talking to one of the individuals from India, I have a special quote. They said, quote, "America is selfish, fat. They will not let us. They are unwilling to give food to us. We are starving. We need food." Also, for their wildlife, they have set up reserves, and they've invested $1 billion in this. The Middle East has had a lot of problems recently with the United Nations. They've had attacks on the Arabians, terrorist attacks on the Arabians, and they have solved these problems through PLO. They also have PLO problems, and they've solved these through peace talks. They say that the United Nations is bugging them, and that the United Nations needs to be more patient with them and give them more time if they want their cooperation. They also say that they are, quote, struggling, but they are making it. And that's it.
Up to now, the media has been reporting on you, on your activities, taking a look at what you've all been doing, and pretty much evaluating you, saying a lot about you in public, which is what the media does. I'm going to ask you all now to how the media is doing. I guess by a show of hands, how many people think that the media is doing a good job? All right. Then the people who think they're doing a bad job. All right. So they're doing okay. And how many of you, I mean, of those who think that they're not doing such a great job, how many of you think they're trying to do a good job? All right. All right. Well, I mean, obviously, what you see in real life, what you see on the media all the time is it's through somebody else's eyes and their perspective, and only what they see themselves. So I guess that's something to generally keep in mind when watching the news or whatever. You're off the hook now. Thank you. Okay. It's the end of the second round, and
Okay, we're going to start round 3 in just a moment, but if I could just get everyone to stop their transactions. Just stop your transactions, please. You're going to have one more round to finish them. I have one quick question. Was anyone able to pay off their debt to the commercial bank? Europe? You pay? Could you just explain really quickly, very briefly, how did you do that?
We just pulled money out of our bank and paid them.
So you had enough money to do that? Oh, wow. And you paid off your interest just because you have a lot of money too?
We just paid off the interest.
Who hasn't been able to pay off their interest? Or their debt? And what do you propose to do? How are you going to pay your debt?
Beg. No, yeah. Resources for money.
You're going to sell natural resources. Okay, that is one way. this lack of money seems to be a real problem in the world. Do you think that that's the main problem? No. Okay. When you came in today, if I could please just keep your attention for a few more minutes and we'll start round 3. If you could just have a seat, just sit down and relax. When you came in today, we had you do a very quick exercise called, we asked you to draw a picture of what you thought the future would look like. And a good number of you had very negative, dismal views of the future, and that's fine. We are not here to change your view at all. We wanted to challenge you today to see if you can stop it from happening maybe, or if you had a positive view to see if you could keep that going. But what I'd like you to do right now is just take a few minutes, 1 minute, and think. If we move 20 years ahead to the year 2018, think, what kind of world would you like to live in? Your ideal world. Not the kind of world you think you're going to have in 20 years, but the kind of world you would like to have. Your ideal world. What I'd like to do right now is come up with a list of your ideal world. And on this list, I'm going to ask all of you to participate, to raise your hand and give us one way of looking at the ideal world. And so, for example, if you want to feed, if you want enough food for everyone, we would like you to not say, no more starvation. We'd like to put it in positive terms. So 100% of humanity is fed, or instead of saying no more war, to say peace. But it's a unanimous list, so everyone in this room has to agree about what the ideal world will look like 20 years from now. Go ahead, yell it out. World peace. Equality of just equality. A clean environment. Okay, we'll give Chris a chance to.
Democracy.
Democracy? Does everyone in this room agree that democracy? No? Why? Why? Who disagrees?
I disagree because I feel that, like, in a perfect world, there are natural born leaders and there are natural born followers, but I think that, like, in this sea of democracy, it seems as though, like, we're relying on the government too much, and we are having a part in it, but it doesn't, I think that it should be that everybody should be involved. I think it should be like a commitment. I don't think that it should be that the country should be relied on everyone, but I think everybody should have a say in their opinion.
So you're more for equality and human rights?
Right.
Is
I don't think that there should be people with so much power that they have a decision to, let's say, declare war on a country that, and you know, millions of lives are going to be at stake, and those people had nothing to do with that decision. And I feel that if leaders should make these decisions, they should be responsible for their actions, and they shouldn't have as much power as they do.
Can someone sum that up for a point on the list if everyone agrees with his comments? No one agrees with that. Okay, well, we don't want to have too much of a battle, but please tell us why you disagree.
I disagree because, first of all, democracy, that's the government that's supposed to be least dependent on the government. Like, the people make the decisions in democracy. And actually, what I really was going to say before that was, I don't think democracy is the best because the countries in the world that have the best standard of living are those that are socialist, all the Scandinavian countries. And what does that tell you? That maybe democracy isn't just the best for every country in the world.
And when you said democracy, why did you want to see democracy on the list? You had a reason.
Yeah,
Well, because the U.S. is probably the most powerful and most has the highest standard of living, and they're democratic. That's why.
So your ideal for the world is that everyone should have a high standard of living?
Uh-huh.
Can everyone agree upon that? That there should be a high standard of living across the board for all regions of the world? We can't get agreement on that one either. Why not? Who disagrees? It's got to be a unanimous list.
I think that some people want to stay poor, like the Amish. Right?
I don't think they're poor,
I mean, they want to live a simple life. Some people, you know.
but they have enough food. They have all of the things that they need, right? Okay. So we can agree a high standard of living for all regions of the world. Yes? Okay.
Okay. Could we maybe be more specific about what is? I mean, part of the problem, I guess, is defining terms. What would people agree is a high standard of living? What components of that are there that people would want to see and could agree upon?
A decent house. Okay. Enough food. A decent house. More education.
Happiness.
Okay, one at a time, please. Happiness. And what was, someone had a comment over here? No? 100% literacy. A few more? High life expectancy. Does everyone agree? With happiness, high life expectancy, health care. Who disagrees with high life expectancy? You don't want people to live a long life?
Not that, but the population problems that are with it. Like, if everyone's living longer, the more population there's going to be. So that might not actually be an ideal world.
Your solution is what?
One solution may be a controlled population.
Okay, so for the ideal world would have a controlled population?
Yes.
But, I mean, do you want to control the population by having people die younger?
That was not what I was getting at. I was getting at like less births. I think that like birth control, and I'm not talking about the pill. I'm talking about the ideal of birth control should be held more seriously, because people are being born at a much faster rate, and I think that also if we overpopulate, I think if we don't pay attention to it, that our numbers are going to decrease like drastically when they shoot up, because we're going to be so overcrowded that that it's just going to backfire and it's going to blow up in our face. And I think that because I think that if you allow population to get out of hand, living standards, like everything that we've listed, you know, will just backfire.
All right, so it sounds like we have two issues. One is life expectancy, which is just how long a person can expect to live. And then there's population control, which is sort of a separate issue. How many people will be born? So taking the first, how many people would agree with a longer life expectancy as a desirable goal? I guess, is there anybody who disagrees with that? You do. Why?
I mean, people need to die, you know? Some people are born, people die, you know, people should have 2 kids so that, I mean, so the world keeps going at the pace that it's at, and then every once in a while, a kid will die, so we'll naturally decrease our population.
We could start with you. Okay. But I mean, again, it sounds like that's it's a population control issue, which there are two ways to do that. There's one which is preventing people from being born, and then the other which is people dying younger than, and you're kind of for the second part there? Or he's for both. All right, so it isn't, so we can't get unanimous agreement on longer life expectancy. How about,
Okay,
what about
few more suggestions
Yeah, anything else in another
that
area?
everyone can
perhaps?
agree upon?
Yes.
I think in an ideal world, there needs to be a high expectancy, because of life, living, because that means healthcare is better, the better technology, better medicine. So I think it should be higher.
What is it that's making many of you say that you think a high life expectancy is good? You want to live long. Okay.
Social medicine.
Social medicine? Okay, social medicine? Do you
Well,
mean
we have
equal access to
healthcare for all.
healthcare?
In other words, socialized is what you're saying, or we have.
Safer world?
Okay, well we have
Safer how?
healthcare for all, which is pretty much guaranteed healthcare, which is
Okay, a safer world? Safer how?
Like no crime, like less decreasing crime, like
Decreasing crime world? Crime free? Okay, one more comment and then we'll move forward to round 3.
Low infant mortality rate.
okay. Does anybody have a problem with low infant mortality?
I'm not sick, okay?
Okay, so I'll jot that down then.
People have to die. That's why we need to keep population down. If too many people live, we're just going to have the problem that we've always been knowing we were going to have with population.
Just to bring up this again, we've seemed to be spending a lot of time discussing, high life expectancy and overpopulation, and many people are saying that overpopulation is a problem and that people can't continue to live very, very long because we're going to have too many people on the planet. But when you started this game, you saw the way population is distributed, and all Asia has so much more, 50% almost, of the world's population. So is it really that the whole world is overpopulated, or certain regions of the world are populated? And why do you think that they don't have the room? I mean, they don't have as much space because who deemed it that way? Some parts of the land are... So there are many factors you're citing as to why certain regions of the world are overpopulated. And it's not just because people are living longer?
Remember you said that the Earth, like the first people saw on Earth was like in Asia and in Africa. That's why they were more populated than in North America. And in North America, there's only 100-year history. So in China or something like that, they have over like 1,000 years of history. So that's why there's more people there.
And there is some inequity of land distribution. Can we agree upon that? Okay. Well, we want to continue into round 3. So what you've done here is create a list of the way you would like the world to be in 20 years. And we're going to challenge you in the next round, in round 3. Do you think you can make any of this happen? All 10 regions of the world can agree upon how to make these ideal things happen? No?
You want to do smallpox? Okay, we're going to start the last round briefly, but before we do that, I have a short story for you. It's somewhat connected to this. I'd like to ask you, actually, very often when I bring this up with a high school crowd, because of your age, you may never have heard of this at all, but how many of you are familiar with smallpox? All right, well, a good deal of you are. That is actually a photo from UN archives from probably the late 60s, early 1970s of a smallpox victim in Africa, a young boy. Smallpox has actually, I picked up doing a tour of Germany for World Game, Die Pocken, known various names throughout the world, but smallpox has been with humanity, or had been with humanity for a long time. Thousands of years, hundreds of years, and probably going to cut through here, but about 1,500 years ago, approximately, here in India, some people figured out, well, you know, you can more or less inoculate people against smallpox. There was very vague understanding of what was going on, but it was understood that if you took scrapings from a smallpox victim and scratched the skin of somebody who was healthy and gave them a mild case of smallpox, then they would not get a more serious case of the really horribly disfiguring disease, and they would not die from it, as thousands of people did. It was the first vaccine. I'm getting to that in just a second, thank you. So it was essentially, yes, it was live virus, so it was pretty frightening thing. It didn't always work the way people wanted it to. It wasn't an attenuated virus such as we have today. And through hundreds of years, the knowledge of how to do this worked its way over, to Turkey. And apparently the Turks were inoculating people hundreds of years ago, again with some vague understanding of what was going on, but knowing that it worked. Because of some writings that were available in Turkey, and which sort of made their way slowly through hundreds of years through Europe, in the UK, just excuse me, well, the UK's here. I don't need to stand exactly on it. You get the general idea. But in England, there was a woman, minor royalty figure, I don't recall her name exactly, who apparently did some reading, some medical research, and figured out that you could pretty much inoculate people against the disease. And she, of course, gets no credit whatsoever. But there was a guy who, about 20 years later, believe his name is Edward Jenner, who was a doctor in England, who figured out how to inoculate people against smallpox. And we've been doing that since about the 1850s. Now, when I say we, what I mean is North America has been doing it, Europe has been doing it, Japan was doing it. And these three regions, these richer regions in the world, were each paying combined about $300 million every year to keep smallpox outside of their borders. Now, what that meant was they were inoculating their own people, and they had quarantine systems set up through immigration and through their customs. They had various screening tests. And this was all costing a lot of money, $300 million per year combined. Meanwhile, in other parts of the world, Indian subcontinent, Africa, and so on, the disease raged on with no let-up in sight. And there was a group of scientists in the 1960s, late 1960s, who were loosely organized under the World Health Organization. We have the World Health Organization in this game. It's a real extant functioning body, which is part of the UN. And a group of scientists got together and proposed something and said, well, let's say we wanted to not just keep smallpox away from people. Let's say we wanted to get rid of smallpox. Never been done before, really getting rid of a disease, but what would that take? And they scratched some figures down and realized, well, you know, for some of about $500 million, they could get helicopters and doctors and vaccines and everything. And they would have to spend this $500 million, you know, over a certain period of time, and they would attempt to actually actively eradicate smallpox from the earth. And it started slowly in the late 60s and through the 70s. Eventually, there were fewer and fewer cases as the plan was implemented, and ended up over in Somalia, actually. The Horn of Africa, there were 4 cases left in 1978, and as far as we know, these were the last 4 cases of smallpox on the earth. So one-time investment of $500 million was made, and it worked. And there were 2 vials of virus actually left, 2 vials of the smallpox virus. One was kept in Moscow at a health institute there, and the other at the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta, or near Atlanta. And these 2 vials were both recently destroyed. There was some debate over whether or not to keep them or not to do further research in case smallpox should somehow break out again somewhere in the world. But as far as we know, it's the only global problem that appears to have been solved by people working together to solve a problem globally. It's the only disease that's ever been eradicated through a conscious effort to eradicate a disease. And in all likelihood, it's the only species that humans have ever made go extinct on purpose. So it's a very interesting story. The point of the story, the moral of the story is by working together, regions of the world were able to accomplish a feat and do it cheaper in the long run than they would have been able to do individually. So as we go into this third game round, the last playing round, we would ask you to perhaps keep that in mind, see if there are any problems which you could work with other regions on, or perhaps even try to solve globally. And round 3, keeping perhaps these goals in mind, you came up with and agreed unanimously to, will now begin.
Guys, at the end, we're going to have a press conference, and so you need to pick one representative, and you're going to write a 2 to 3 sentence summary of like the problems you guys had and how you've solved them, and just like an overall view of like what y'all have done. And then we're going to open the floor to like all the different countries for questions and stuff. So y'all need to pick one representative from your region, and y'all need to work together to write up like a summary of what y'all have done. Okay?
Right.
Used up all of
We just want 6. You'll get 12 billion. How much do you want for 6?
What do you They want 2 million for technology. We have natural resources. Do you want to go to technology?
How much are you willing to sell your technology for?
Yes.
Yes.
That's how we be going.
Okay.
You want 4?
Thank you. Can I see the folder? 1. 2 for 1.
2 for 1,
Yeah, right here.
You won't give us technology for 5 billion?
You're not in the group.
We don't need much money.
Do you have the
We'll
card?
give you 20 billion.
Hey, that's a pretty good deal. 20 billion?
5 billion in technology.
Technology.
No, man, we just got your technology. Whoa, whose future is that?
Let's hide that.
It's not here. Oh, that's not.
We're ready. We're ready. If anyone comes after.
What are y'all ready for?
Defense. We have one and only one
So have technology to sell?
weapon. We sold the other one.
No, we have money though. Money.
We need food. We're not
We need
selling
technology.
anything for.
Oh yeah, fine. Whatever.
Okay, wait. Y'all want to sell technology? 1 for $2 billion?
4.
4 billion?
4?
No, hold on. What do you want?
Technology.
No, we're doing 4.
4. 4's good.
4 billion for one technology. That's a lot.
You can buy food. I know someone who's giving away food.
Where? China. We'll take 5 billion. That's our final offer. Tenny's gonna give us 5. Because we can't. We don't have a lot of
All right,
technology
take it.
ourselves.
Take it. I'll get food from Tenny. Well, give it. Thank
All right, we need 8.
8 what?
8 more food.
No, we need
We have a long-term solution.
What we're saying is if we want to build more hydroelectric plants, we might still have to spend the same amount of technology.
We get to confiscate money.
Yeah, we do something when we give you money. What do? We need to go get our rules.
I have a question. India has a problem with the overpopulation. And so I was wondering, can we actually just educate the people about it and set up abortion clinics and stuff
Yes,
like that?
you can implement a program on that.
We're in the middle of something.
And fund it, and that
Yeah,
would work.
would that actually be an actual solution of what you want to do? Okay, then, so I'll write it down.
Yes. Latin America's over here.
Other regions of the world, wealthier, for technology, 6 billion.
For tech, 6 billion.
No.
Hey, what about cogeneration?
And $1 billion.
Well, I mean, it depends. You have to have some idea of how, how are you creating energy to begin with that you can do this, and then.
So it's combining like when we use energy for heat, we're
Right.
using heat to make more energy. That's what it's saying.
But well, no, you can't do that. What really, it's cogeneration is when you're creating some energy for some purpose, like running something electrical, but it's also producing heat, and then you harness that heat just for heat.
Just for heat? Oh.
Yeah.
It gets cold in China.
True. But I mean, it's going to cost you money and a little technology to do that, but no natural resources, I don't think.
Hydrogen fuel. Basically, we have 4 technologies, and we have to get, I think 4 energies, maybe 5.
All right.
We're only getting 2.
Well, the 2 guys on your team seem like they might be interested in getting 3 from nuclear.
Yeah. Is this where I should go for air pollution if I want to solve it?
No, world health. Actually, environment. She's got a green hat.
What about biofuels and gas turbines? We need change.
You can try that. I mean,
that takes more natural resource. Would it take less technology?
We need $4 billion back.
Not necessarily, because it depends on what you're burning. Like, if you're burning waste from something else, but you'd have to tell me, like, what.
And she didn't give us our change for our other $5 billion either.
We could use farming waste.
Another 4 it is? Presumably. Yeah,
We could keep all of our. We could implement a waste collection, an organic waste collection program within our cities. That would cost money, but it would also reduce pollution, or waste, municipal waste, and then we can use that to use as fuel.
You probably could. I mean, you should write all that down and come up with a proposal for how much it's going to cost you.
We have money too, but we don't have to take it.
That's probably mainly what you need.
Okay, here's a proposal. Sub-Saharan Africa. We want to do 3.
2 microhydro, 1 biomass. Three. Okay. We use two ideas, but I'll take technology.
We just put them up. We didn't have another one of these, so we just put them both on.
That's fine. I would take that. And then for 4 energy units, right?
7. It's 7.
7?
It's 2 for microhydro and
5 for...
We have the sheet.
It's
We're doing 3 different microhydros and 1.
Right.
And it says 7. Microhydros are 2 each, and then bio is 1.
Okay. All right, well, fine. I'll take it.
Cool.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Here's your money, here's your technology,
All right.
and here's your authorities.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, you're going to have to make an investment for this of, some technology and some money to extract the resources. So, how much energy are you trying to produce?
Like 3 units.
3 units, all right. And what region are you in?
Latin America.
All right.
Oil there.
Yeah, there is.
Plenty of oil there.
There is. All right, I'll say if you put in 4 technology and 3 billion, I'd give you the 3 energy units.
No, 6, sorry. 6. No, but then we only have 2 left.
Yep, we need to trade some technology.
Okay.
We have natural resources.
Yeah.
Why don't we give 2 natural resources and 4 technology? That's it? Oh.
Okay.
3 candlesticks.
Oh my God, 5 minutes. What are y'all doing?
Energy.
How much did y'all get?
Yes?
3 now.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I talked to you about this before.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, China, we got a team meeting.
We have.
Okay.
They are from sub-Saharan Africa. The question is, how much money have they paid us already? They owed us.
They have paid over the interest.
Oh, so they want to borrow more money, but they paid on a regular basis?
Yeah.
I think we should lend them some, but I don't think we can do it for military.
Yeah, for military.
Our bank has a philosophical opposition to paying money for military purposes.
Okay. If you work for food or for employment or something like
Environmental issues, certainly.
for military. It's for food.
So that's the problem-solving thing, and then we'll see then.
Maybe for food in the military.
We don't want any people to starve, but we certainly don't want you out shooting people.
Right, our military is just really, it's no good. See, our plan is like just to prevent world starvation. We need to get our people into the military so that we can feed them.
Let's give them $10 million for food.
Okay.
You want to do that?
So, okay.
You feel? I mean, they're worth it. They've had a lot of problems. So, as a philosophical and a philanthropical device, the bank will donate $10 billion.
Donation, thank you.
For food and environmental issues only.
Right, it'll feed our military. And our military is working on the environment right now.
The military always works on the environment. That may have been a bad investment. We'll see.
Please have a seat, members of the Indian subcontinent and China. Round 3 is now over. We'd like to have the press conference, so please be seated. Media team, are you ready for the press conference?
I guess we are. Hey, could we see the one representative from each country? Could you please come up now?
Here, go first.
Okay, we can do that. Okay, like we're really short on time, so we're gonna have to keep it really short. So answer your question like as quickly as possible. Okay, all right, we're gonna start with Latin America. Latin America, because y'all's is big. Okay. All right, we're starting with Latin America, and remember we got to keep this really short. Okay. How did you feel when your solutions to your problems were considered immoral?
Immoral.
Well,
They're not immoral because there's not a drug problem in Latin America because no one really does drugs in Latin America. And so you're coming in here. No one does it. They sell it, but they don't do it. It's serious. And if you walk into Latin America and you think they're going to drug, they don't do it. It's just they sell it to you because other countries are stupid. They buy it because they're stupid.
All right, okay.
I would like you to excuse his remarks. Well, of course, as some people should know, most people, I mean, they like, well, you know, they do. They only do drugs because it's illegalized, because they want to just go against the law, just because, I don't know, they find it fun. And once it's made legal, they don't want to do it anymore because, you know, it's just not as fun just to do it because they don't have anything to go against. I mean, it doesn't give them that little danger high from, you know, doing something illegal.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Sorry, we gotta keep this really short. Okay. All right, Europe. What were the problems you were able to solve, and what was like the easiest solutions for you to come up with? Like what?
All right, we solved all our food needs. Well, we had a surplus of food needs, so we were able to sell the food and get all the energy we needed. So we solved the energy problem. So we solved homelessness by just building shelters because we had an excess of money, so we could afford them. So we bought shelters. We cleaned up the water. What else did we do? Everything.
So you solved all your problems?
Yeah, we solved the Yugoslavian problem too. Human rights problems, immigration problems, fixed it.
Good job. Okay, yeah. All right, who are you? Okay. How did a region as large as yours organize itself in order to make the decisions?
Well, we just had really good planning. Sorry. We really try to put everyone's talents where they best could be served, where they could serve the people the best, like people who knew about the environment and worked on it, the people who knew about, you know, good relations between countries, they worked on that. We did a lot for the people of China. Like we had like the most people, or we had a lot of people, and we did so much for them. We totally raised their standard of living. We helped the future literacy. We helped the younger generation. We helped them live longer. We educated them about STDs. We made their daily life better. We improved the water. Did a lot.
Good job. Okay. Okay, Middle East. Okay, in the Middle East, there were a lot of problems, and it seemed like you were being bombarded constantly by the UN. How did you decide what issue you're going to solve first?
I think that we sort of went in the order. We tried to go in the order that the citations were coming in, but because everybody is energy hungry and they think that you know we have the time to just lend it out without making smart decisions, I think that we had to sort of rely on our impulses, which was something that I don't think was beneficial, but in the end it worked out. I think because obviously we're a rational group of people, you know, there's only 4 of us, and also it was easier for us to make these decisions because there are only 4 of us total, and so I think when there's better communication, then it's easier to solve the problems.
Okay, thank you. Could I please speak to the representative from India? Okay.
Okay, there seemed like there was a lot of animosity toward the United States when they refused to help you. Have they improved any? And how are your food problems? Have they improved also?
I think our relations with America have improved. I do not know who said that comment, and I deny ever saying that myself. And our food problems, I believe we solved most of it. And I think the key with our group was that we had a lot of people in our group, and I think we probably had among the most problems out there. And I thought we handled it real well as a group. We didn't solve them all, but we solved most of them. So.
Thank you. Is there a representative from Russia up here? Okay. Russia seemed very uncooperative with the media all through the game. Is there a reason why there was a silence?
We just didn't want to make any comments until we had worked through our problems, which we eventually did.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we need North America. Okay. A lot of the people came to you like for help and stuff. And which countries did you feel like were most cooperative with you in your efforts to help everyone?
Probably India, wasn't it? I think as a group, I think it was India and Japan.
And what did they do to help?
Most of them wanted food, so we sold them the food. So most of them were cooperative in giving us the money that we asked for the food.
And Japan? What were some of the hardest problems that you had to face, and which countries for you were most helpful in helping you solve them?
All the countries have been helpful to us because we have alliance with every country there is out there, and for the hardest problem that we had to solve was aging problem. We don't know how to solve the aging problem of Japan, because they just keep on going and going, and the place getting smaller and smaller.
The aging problem.
Southeast Asia was supposedly very successful in solving their problems. How were you successful, and could you tell us some about your success?
Well, we decided that we were going to work on our region first, and just, we apologized that towards the end of the game, we were kind of refusing people, energy and food, but we felt that we had to look out for the needs of our own people first. We were able to solve all the problems that were in our group, and then we got help from Japan by, they gave us the technology we needed to put it over the top.
Okay, thank you. Also, could I please speak to Africa representative? Okay. What problem do you think you were most successful at solving?
I think we just solved all of the problems equally as well, and we just did a really good job. And I'd just like to thank the commercial bank thingy, because they helped us out with the donation and all that, and that's pretty cool too. We just solved all our problems as they came, and I guess we just asked really good questions. And
also, you have a large population. How did that affect you?
I didn't think we had a large population, because if you look at Asia, it's all overcrowded and stuff. So I think we were pretty lucky. We had a pretty big land mass, and we solved all our problems. So it didn't really matter.
Thank you. United Nations.
Gave us a well-being card for our drug legalization, and they come after us afterwards, and it's kind of hypocritical because they gave us a well-being card for drugs, and they came after us because then we have to legalize drugs. So the UN needs to quit cheating people, because after you say well-being, and then they came after us.
Okay, and we would also like to ask the UN one last question. Since give them some representation. What was the most difficult country to deal with?
I think the most difficult country was Latin America due to their disrespect for UN sanctions. We did not sanction the legalization of drugs. We did sanction another policy that they proposed, and they underwrote the legalization of drugs after the fact. And we did end up sending in troops. Latin America is currently occupied at this time by several of the greater nations. And we were a little disappointed from some of the other countries that failed to come to us for help. The UN currently controls 12 energy sources across the continent. We have over $36 billion. We have 13 technologies and 12 natural resources. They were all there for you to come get, but...
Thank you. That's the end of our press conference. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, we're not finished. Sorry to disappoint you. It's good to know that you want to stay, though. Well, this makes everything a bit more difficult, but...
Well, if it's any consolation, it's only very brief.
So I suppose we have some general questions for you. You've been playing a game for a few hours, obviously, no kidding. And like all games, the question sort of comes out: who won? Okay. All right. Okay. Well, yeah, we could do this a few ways. We could count well-being cards, you know, like who had 10 well-being cards at least? Like most of you? All right, how about 15 well-being? 15 well-being cards? How many people had that many? So 12? Anybody have more than 12? All right. Now the next question becomes, now that we've sort of sorted that all out, and incidentally, regarding how many problems you had, you all had the same number of problems. It's rigged. Does it matter in terms of who won, how many well-being cards you earned, or how much money you got, or how much? We all won. Yeah, no, we realize we have a script and everything. We kind of have to ask that question. We're always fishing for exactly that answer, only hopefully usually not as sarcastically. But it's hard to, it is sort of grating, and I often feel bad sort of asking it because, there's always the people who get it, and the people who get it didn't really need the question. The idea is that, you have hopefully learned something to this point, and hopefully you'll learn a little more. We have another brief presentation. We have some additional questions for you as well.
I don't have any more questions, but I want you to leave this room having had a great experience, I hope. And, and I think many times people think we expect certain answers from them. We really don't. So we'd like to know if you even thought this is worthwhile. Was this a significant experience? Your applause is very, very nice to hear. But I'm curious to know why. Why was it significant? Was it very similar to the real world or similar to your lives? Yes? Can someone comment very briefly?
I think that whether you want to admit it or not, it really did open your eyes to like how everybody's got their problems, and it's sort of like it's not easy just to say we all got to get together and make it a happy place. It's an ongoing struggle, and I think that that we need to stop like saying people aren't trying hard enough, because I think that with what we all went through, with like the 4 hours of like hell that we went through, I think that we all need to just give people a little bit more credit, and I think that people really are trying to make it a better place.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that it was a great experience because usually we all just visualize ourselves in our own little world and on how we live, and since we're happy, we don't really see all the problems in the world around us, and then this made us look at other people's point of views and to see what's really going on, not just, our TV and our radio and what we see. We don't really think about it, and, here we were able to think about it and try to at least come up with solutions, because we all just say, well, let's try to stop this and let's try to stop that, and we don't really realize how hard it is to actually do it. And when we're here, we were able to see and at least try, to see how hard it is. Not just saying it because, like they say, it's harder done than said.
Thank you.
Yeah, like when some of us didn't get enough to eat, everybody felt bad about that, right? And just imagine, in some countries, some people don't even get in to eat the entire day. We take that for granted because we can get all we want, and we even end up throwing some of it away. So we really need to appreciate all this we get.
Throughout the game, some of you were getting a little frustrated and upset. I just remember because I spent a great deal of time with Commercial Bank in India trying to help them solve some of their problems, just to guide them, and there was a lot of frustration. And I also heard a lot of frustration from Latin America, especially when they solved a very difficult problem, drug problem, right? You solved it? And then the United Nations came over and gave them a well-being card, and then what did they do? They took away food or energy?
All of our energy. All of it.
So why
You would think with
do
legalized drugs you'd have more energy.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, the United Nations came over and made some kind of moral judgment. Is that what they did? Did they do that?
Yeah.
But it said it was all right, and they came back, and then they're like, no, because after we said it, they came on that, the media pronounced it, and they came over, and then they're like, no, then you have to change this, and realizing they didn't change this, they really don't know about what's going on in this country, that people aren't addicted to drugs in Latin America. It's just all the other nations around, they're not.
Is that a realistic problem that happens? United Nations or other organizations imposing their...
I mean, you don't give them 5 minutes to work
You need time to
out.
work stuff out and think about it, and they didn't. They just bombarded us.
In the real world, do you normally have much time to work on any specific? More than 5 minutes, granted.
More than 5 minutes.
Not to my knowledge.
No, in the real world, organizations that we do believe to be unbiased and for the entire world are not necessarily that way. And this is not to make any of these organizations out to be evil entities. They are certainly not. They do a lot of great things, just like many people around the world do great things, and many people around the world do not. But Latin America certainly saw firsthand, after they came up with the solution, what happens when someone else feels that that solution is not acceptable for what reasons, United Nations? Do we have that team here?
Increasing their inner city drug problem. The legalization of drug was increasing North America's drug problem. Europe even came over and wanted to buy some drugs.
Were you rooting for a particular region, North America and Europe, as opposed to Latin America?
No, North America had already issued a solution to their inner city problem, and it was to decrease drugs. And by them legalizing, it was going to increase. And so we had to go over and tell them to change that.
So the solutions and the problems are not so simple, it seems. We're going to conclude, but
yes.
We were making this list earlier, and it took about 20 minutes or 15 minutes to just come up with this list with a room full of 90 or 100 people, right? Were you able to achieve this list in the third round? Why not? You all said you could do it. Everybody has different needs. People were greedy. Okay. Do you think that if you had 50 or 60 or 100 years, could you make this list happen?
Thank you.
No, not all of what's the biggest block? What's the largest barrier to making this list come about? Greed. Yell them because I can't hear. I'm still.
We got a human nature over here.
Human nature, greed, okay? Religion, religious differences.
Just pretty much to conclude, you could ask the question, what is holding us back from doing the things on this list or any similar list? And I might point out that no matter where we go, whether we do a workshop in Copenhagen, Denmark for college students who are all like economics and business students, or whether we go to middle school students in Japan or Motorola executives in Schaumburg, Illinois, they always come up with pretty much the same list as this. Everybody does. Everybody says that that's what they want, at least when you ask them in a group. And the question becomes, are we even capable of doing it? And the Institute, it doesn't just put together games like this and employ people like Manisha and I to do that sort of thing. In fact, I used to be, at one time I was a research manager for World Game. That's how I started with the Institute. And we do some actual research on these topics and following up on the smallpox type of thing where some people said, well, how much money would it cost to actually eradicate the disease? We started asking some questions like that and coming up with some figures. And included in those are the following. We asked the question, feeding humanity, how much would that cost? Now, we're not talking about everybody even having the kind of barbecue that we just did. Nothing on that level. But people meeting their basic nutritional needs. A global sustainable agriculture program, which is just maybe some of the techniques you came in contact with at the production center. This is approximately the annual amount that the United States alone spends on dieting, just for some perspective. We did the same thing with healthcare for all. Now, we're not talking about, everybody having access to their own personal on-care doctor all the time. Not at all. Primary health care, community health providers, $2.5 billion. Excuse me, $12.5 billion. What is community health care? That's not even a doctor. That's somebody who's been trained to dispense basic medications, give inoculations, in rural areas, mostly of the world, where people just generally don't see any doctors at all. Doing the 75–80% of things that you could train a layperson to do that could save lives if they have some simple and clean supplies. $12.5 billion, huge amount of money. AIDS prevention and control. Well, according to the Harvard AIDS program, they would like to see $6 billion a year put into that worldwide. So we put that figure down. Child health care, $2.5 billion. Now, this is just basic child health care, basic inoculations, basic vitamins, and so forth. That tiny little square there is an iodine program to keep people in the world from getting goiter and suffering the brain damage and other things that come with iodine deficiency. We have iodine in our salt here. A lot of people get none in their diet whatsoever in the world, and it's incredibly cheap. This entire chart for providing health care for all, $132 billion on this chart, this section of the chart. It's an incredible amount of money, an immense amount of money. It also turns out to be approximately the same amount of money that the United States alone spends on alcohol and tobacco every year. So putting a lot of these together, we put together a chart called the What the World Wants chart. And we see here eliminate malnutrition, starvation, $19 billion, huge amount of money. Providing very basic shelter for people, $21 billion. That's just for those who have none yet. Incredible amount of money. Some other things, healthcare, AIDS control, we touched on that earlier. Preventing soil erosion, $24 billion. This is annual expenditure, spending this money every year to try and solve these problems. Huge amounts of money. This entire chart is a little under $1 trillion a year, every year. $1 trillion. It's a huge amount of money. And it also happens to be approximately the same amount of money that the world spends every year on military expenditures. And I suppose we'll be leaving you with that to think about. What choices are we making on what we spend? And we're not saying that we should necessarily make everybody stop spending every penny on the military tomorrow. It's not even realistic. But it gives you some idea of what's available in the world in the way of our resources and perhaps some ways that we could possibly use them better. And to ask the general question, is it really the money or the resources that's holding us back from putting together that chart of things we agreed on earlier? We have this available, if you like, when you're leaving. If you want to take a look at that, this is all footnoted, and there's some suggestions for where to look if you're interested in learning more about any of those topics. Manisha is currently handing out some evaluations. It's of us and the program. We'd appreciate it if you would fill those out. We have a slideshow that we'd like to end with, and I'll be shutting this off. I'd like to thank you for your attention and for staying so long on a Saturday especially. And if you could please fill out these forms, drop them off to us or someone on your way out. And you can have a What the World Wants chart if you like. Thank you very much.